I was advised by my legal assistant in the name of Rochelle that we couldn't even start the meeting without a quorum. So
Oh, really?
you now have a quorum. So Rochelle, anytime you're ready, you let me know. You ready? Okay. Welcome to everyone that's here. We had a long discussion at the Board of Commissioners last night about traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
And it came to roost in living color with Mr. Broadhurst.
And Chris, right?
And Chris, respectfully said that, he didn't have enough to report to fight the traffic. And, we heard a lot of this kind of discussion last night.
Yeah.
And while we're on that topic, Christine, I really appreciate you reaching out to Kyle and taking that initiative and working with him. And, I thought you came back with some really good information and good starting point, and I'm sure the Board of Commissioners are going to turn you loose and let you go get it done.
Thank you.
We'll give them time to do that. So, but welcome to everybody that is here. Alex did say, William, do you mind me coming to these meetings? And absolutely, I do not mind, Alex. I really want you and John to be here, and friend over here, Neil, to be here as well, because hopefully we can all gain a little bit of knowledge in the process. So with that, I'm asking for any public comments. Hearing none. We have an agenda in front of us. Does anybody have any items that they would like to add or delete from the agenda?
I make a motion, we accept the agenda as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, right. Does any committee member have a conflict of interest concerning any item on this agenda?
No.
Okay. Taking a look at the minutes, may not have had a chance to take a look at them, but I had a couple of things that I wanted to mention, and then y'all can jump in too. It appears to me that we did vote at our last meeting in support of the BIS part of the agenda. We were asked to take a look at that, and we looked at it closely, and I think we took a vote, but that's not reflected in the minutes. And it should be, but where is it? Because I ran through them.
Once I imagined it, which could be possible.
One
It's up
page
to
runs
top
through
of
it.
page 2.
Top of page 2.
Very top.
Thank you, Rochelle. My oversight, I was scanning through, and so that was one item that I wanted to make sure was in there, and it is in there. And the only other item I noticed is that the TISBC was on March 28th or 21st, and that's just a little. Okay. Is there anything else that anybody picked up?
Yeah, well, I was wondering why Bob Burnett was present and then he was not present.
Because I didn't delete his name.
Yeah. It's a. Alrighty, any other items that need to be looked at on the minutes? So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as modified?
Says modified.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Alrighty. The next item was TI Coastal, and I mentioned that Chris is out. We only met a couple of weeks ago, but Chris has reported that they are in the process of pretty soon going to do the pre-hurricane survey on the beach, pre-hurricane season survey on the beach, which is all important because if we do have an event, we need to know what our starting point was. So they're preparing to do that. They have done their quarterly sound surveys, and the last one was posted on the town's website effective May the 6th. The next thing that they are working on is putting together a design and cost estimate for the 2027-28 project that we anticipate, which will be an inlet maintenance beach nourishment project. So they're in the process of that, and they're going to be in the process of obtaining the permits for that. They want to get the permits in place early on, and the permits will reflect the 30-year beach ban. So that's pretty much the TI coastal update, but I want to use this little portion to talk a little bit about the Army Corps of Engineers also does a survey, and their survey for the inlet in the outer inlet and the Topsail Creek was also published on May the 5th. And so I asked Rochelle to put this up. And this particular, we were getting some feedback from a couple of watermen. One was Stuart Johnson and the other was Tay Tucker. And they were saying that the channel markers were not in the correct place. And so between myself and Christina, we've been contacted with the ANT team, Aids and Navigation Team. They're located in Oak Island. And both times that we contacted them, they were very, very friendly. Get this, they couldn't come right away last week because they didn't have a boat that was working. So, but don't want to reflect poorly because both times we reached out to them, they were very, very friendly and very happy. Tate Tucker reported on Monday that great idea, channel markers have been put in place. But I did follow up with Stuart, and he says that the channel markers are still not in place at the very outside ocean side of the inlet. So if you look at the Army Corps of Engineers map, you'll see there's red here, red here. To get from this red to there, you go across the shoal. And so we've been back in contact with them to ask them to move their red more over here and the green over here to reflect where the channel is now. Just bringing that up. Christina, you're looking at that like.
No, I just have the wrong glasses on for far away.
So I hit 2.5 feet right here,
Okay.
going across. And now it's high tide.
Oh, my goodness.
That's what I was gonna send to you
Yeah.
from my screen. And I'm not saying I was in the right place, but I was doing the best I could. It was sketchy.
Well, we see that, I mean, just my observation, don't chime in as, we still got a good channel. It's just curved out.
How deep is the green? What does that represent?
Let's see. Is there a scale further up on?
Probably that.
It says 6, 7, 8, the numbers on it. That's 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10. That's 3, 4, 3 and 4 in the red.
So we're at like 8 feet or better in the green. Is that what you're saying?
7, 8, 9, 10. Blue gets to be 12, 14 is what it says here, 16.
Okay.
So I guess you're gonna want to come through here. I went across the darn red shoal, but
Because you have red boots to follow, right?
right. Yeah, right there. I went right across.
And then
Is that where you went across right there where you just, you went across the end of that? Wow.
Yeah, I got down to 2.5 feet.
Yeah.
So the good news is that the ANT team will respond. The bad news is that they won't go off of TI Coastal maps. They gotta have a Army Corps of Engineers map. So I think we can continue to, and Christina as town manager reached out to him and that carried a lot of weight to that.
And the other good news is that our commissioner is still here with us.
Yeah.
That had to be pretty scary.
Stuart did mention that there was a big fishing tournament last weekend and he saw a lot of those big boats hit that show.
Is that right?
So something to look at. I hope y'all don't mind me wading into that as part of the TI Coastal report. The next item on the agenda is update on the water management testing. There has been no follow-up meeting. But I have talked to Mayor Braxton, and he has been working with an engineering firm on the Rocky Mount part of it. And we will have a follow-up meeting and speech to introduce what he has found in that part of the whole scope. I will also say that the budget that was passed last night included $95,000. 19.
90.
Okay. I kind of mixed that up a little bit. But it included a sum for that.
We did have the TM this year's budget currently, but nothing's been spent out there.
So there's a little seed money to kind of work with. In that, well, John, you're shaking your head no.
I'm gonna get Todd to know where the last $10,000 went.
It's in this year's budget. The 10 is in this year's budget. 90 is in next year's budget.
Thank you.
So, and there's also a little bit of money in the BIS portion of TI Coastal for their assistance in case that's required. So those are good things to report. I think that what we will, if we get into solutions on that, we'll have to go looking for some money and assistance from somewhere. The Rocky Mount thing, I think everybody's committed to moving on that. But if we want to address some of the stormwater flooding, it's going to take a little. See. Any questions about that part? The next item on the agenda is update on the BIS fund. Ms. Connie?
Okay, sure you probably have before you the revenue sheet and the finance sheet and also our fund balance sheet for the month of May. We have almost collected all the taxes that we had, budgeted. The vendor accommodations and your Topsail accommodations, that is for April accommodations tax. So when you're looking at it, even though it's in May, it is the April accommodations tax. So we should more than meet our budget figure on that. And then you come on down to, we have the parking revenue for the south end. Again, this is for the month of April, was $15,897. And so today we collected the $85,389. So we will certainly exceed our budgeted amount on that. Our interest earned is now $134,342. We budgeted $70,000. So we have almost doubled that interest. So our total revenue for the month is $87,774.52. Go to our expenditures and our professional service and audit. Majority of the $128,042.01 was the bill that we paid for TI Coastal. We have the physical monitoring for $43,500, and our biological monitoring was $77,740. And the total of that bill was $121,240.04, and that was all budgeted last year and approved. And the other additional would be for Ward and Smith and Nexon, the lobbyists, out of that particular line item. Move on down to staff development, and you see $786.99. But I'm pretty sure that that's going to exceed that because we have money that's on the credit card. And when your credit card statement comes in, it's not for the month, it's like a month behind. So I'm pretty sure we're going to exceed that. Our maintenance repair structures, we've not done anything different than what we did last month. And I think Tom had already, given that update. The parking south end expense that you see for $389.48 is for where we had to change the hours on the signs. That was to auto connect. So that was charged there. Intergovernmental relations is a part of, probably, I think it was our luncheons that we had for our board retreats. I'm sorry, that's not the wrong thing. But this was, we're part of the meetings, the CRC or whatever, that's part of those things that where people have gone to the meetings. And that's all of our expenses for the month of May. It's 130,368.48. Any questions on the finance expenditures or revenue? Okay, we'll move right along to our fund balance sheet. And of course, you see the revenues coming in, your expenses going out. And our ending balance for the month of May is 9,203,775.
Any questions?
That's me. Puts us right on target, didn't
You're pretty close. We will have one more month of
Reverse beach.
So that will help, and we may get a little bit more tax money before the end of June. But
So
think
our starting
we're in
point,
good shape.
starting point was 6,250,920. Is that correct at the top of the sheet?
Yes, sir.
So, if we don't have any slippage, which I don't see that we will, then we're $2,952,000 ahead of where we were in June last year, which is excellent. Excellent. And I guess the target is, if we're gonna have a project in 27, 28, we wanna have 12 million at that point in time. So if we spend 6, we'll still have something for the emergency event. Honey, is that, pretty much the report?
That's pretty much it. Unless someone has questions.
We do, last night Connie was recognized for completing 40 years. That is quite a milestone, Connie, and thank you very much for your time. We're down here, before we had a high-rise bridge. And, but you've been here for a long time, and the experience you bring to the job is really,
Thank you.
very appreciated. Okay, so the next thing is, an update on the island-wide beach Vitex project.
Well, there's not a whole lot to update this time because, they put it in the beginning of May 4th, and they did some treatments. And so they're not planning on coming back now until June 22nd, the week of June 22nd. So not a whole lot is gone on in between then. I will say that we are continuing to work on trying to get waivers for the properties that are on the list that don't have a signed waiver yet, so they can't be treated. But we have gotten a good portion, 8 or 10 of them in the last probably week and a half to go ahead and sign and turn in that waiver. So I'm happy about that. I feel like we're making some progress. So we'll be able to start including those properties when they come back on June 22nd. North Topsail didn't get any treatments the last time they were here in May because with their changing of guards there was some lagging of properties, I guess, that needed to be sent, the list of properties. So, but they have since sent that in. So their intent, MBI intends to start in North Topsail, get all of their properties treated. And there were only 4 properties in Topsail Beach they were unable to treat the last time they were here in May. So they're going to do all of North Topsail, the 4 properties here in Topsail Beach, and then they'll basically start all over again and continue treatments. Because as you know, it takes more than one treatment in order to take care of this stuff. So, they'll get as far as they can with each visit. The treatments are scheduled to continue until probably the end of August. And that's when they'll start to wrap it up because the grant period ends in September.
So what are we gonna do about the people that didn't sign?
Well, unfortunately, if we can't get them to get a waiver, signed waiver, we can't treat them. There has been some conversation, now that we're getting kind of further into the year about starting on other properties, but that's still to be determined if we can do that. That weren't on the initial windshield survey.
Do you have any idea how many properties we're talking about?
That are on the survey that don't have a waiver. We're probably down to about 40.
To give each of us 10. Not a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, again, we're contacting them. I think, a lot of them have questions. We're educating them. I've created a couple of educational documents that we're able to email, so that's been helpful. So I feel like we're making good progress.
What are they concerned about mostly? I mean, the people, what are their concerns?
Well, a couple, one, they really just don't know much about Vitex and why it's a harmful invasive plant. So once I go through that education of it, basically start back from the beginning on when it was brought in the 80s, they actually brought it in for dune stabilization exactly for that. It's exactly what it doesn't do. But, back in the 80s, that's what they thought. And, if you've ever seen Vitex on a dune in the summertime and in the spring when it's in full bloom, it looks like a great, your dune is so heavily vegetated and it appears that it makes it very stable. Unfortunately, it's really what you can't see. It's the root system that's in the dunes that is really what kind of destroys everything. It chokes out all the other vegetation. The vines themselves are very woody and thick, and they don't have any sort of a root mat system. That is really what, like sea oaks have, a root mat system. It really grounds that, the dune. Also, the Vitex does not trap sand. It looks heavy and like that, but the sand doesn't get trapped like beach Vitex, like their panicum. So that's what you need in order to build up your dune. So anyways, once we kind of go through that, and then the other issue is the replanting of vegetation. That was not included in this cycle of funding. So, although the grant money is taking care of the actual treatment and, hopefully removal of it, but the replanting is going to be on the homeowner to do. So that's another concern.
When you started this project, I had a neighbor that was very upset because he probably had the largest stand of Vitex down here besides the south end. And his question was, well, who's going to replace these beautiful plants in my yard? And I didn't have an answer for that. So anyway.
Well, the answer is not one they want to hear, and that's difficult. So, but the education has been, I think, effective. And also there's a video that North Carolina Sea Grant put out. It's an older video, but still very relevant, that when you can see it coming from somebody other than Christina at Town Hall, somebody with a scientific background, I think that has more input as well. So.
Well, can you use like eminent domain or something like that?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I'm thinking like kudzu. I think the state handles that, don't they?
Well, the state has listed it a Class B noxious weed, and it's actually, it's illegal to have it, to transport it, to purchase it. So, it is an illegal invasive plant. The town ordinance also prohibits it being here. So at some point, once we get more into the education, I don't think our ordinance was meant to be very heavy-handed in the way of going in and just telling people they have to do something. But I think the education portion is where we're starting. But at some point, once it's identified, there's supposed to be some sort of treatment or mechanism to try and have it treated and removed, even by the owner.
Guess we're hopeful that there will be some funding because of storm damage mitigation, because that's where this grant came from.
That is where the grant came from.
And are you saying that the first 2 years ends this fall?
It ends in September of 26. That's correct. So we're going to try and get everything done that we can get done, possibly get done in this first round of funding, and hope that there's some more funding that's available for us to apply for.
Well, Christina's been leading this, and she was leading it before she became town manager, so they just added that to another hat to her closet.
I love my pen.
You want to get rid of that noxious weed for more reason than that.
Right.
All righty. The next thing on the agenda was an update on Topsail Island Shoreline Protection Commission. And Ed was not able to attend the last meeting, but John sat in for him. So John, you're welcome to add anything that you like. As usual, we had a good update from Warden Smith. They are our federal level advocates, and Congressman Mike McIntyre does a really good job of producing a report. And he reviews that for us, but also he has within, they subcontract to the Ferguson Group that handles a good portion of the agenda for them. So, and Duran reported about the issue at North Topsail Beach about the Cobra mapping issue. So we had some discussion on the Cobra mapping issue. And one thing that they have done, and John was with me in Washington, and we got a little bit at loggerheads with the Fish and Wildlife Service about the mapping issue, and insinuated that they would take some additional measures, and lo and behold, it's in the appropriations bill for the Department of Interior that they will change the maps. So we'll see if that makes it through the appropriations process or not, but a lot of help on that part of it for North Topsail Beach was out of Congressman Rouser's office. And I guess the notable thing about that is that's not even his district. So he was helping out on trying to help North Topsail Beach. And the concern is, real briefly, if you're in a Cobra zone, you can't get any form of federal flood insurance. You can't get any form of federal backed loans for your home. And there's a large population in northern this island that has either been with or is currently with the Marine Corps, as you can imagine. So there's some of the issues there. The other thing that that they brought up in their report is there have been questions about FEMA Act and how FEMA is going to look in the future. And one of the reports that they generated for us, and I can send anybody a copy that wants one, is a review from the executive branch about what their view is on FEMA going forward. Some of the key principles were return leadership for emergency response to recovery to states and tribes and territories. Reaffirm that individual American preparedness is foundation to disaster readiness, and it has several principles: accelerate federal assistance dollars to help Americans recover from the worst day and maximize the transparency and efficiency of FEMA, boldly transform FEMA. So this is something we should keep our eye on, is where FEMA goes.
Do they say anything at all about any coastal issues, like, the hurricane situation, restoring the structure of the beaches or anything like that? There's nothing there.
Nothing specific about in that. Yeah. But that continues to be one of our biggest concerns. Can you use federal dollars to work in the Cobra zone and place beach material on the outside? And I think that, John, you help me out here, but I think we have a chance to get a legislative change. It probably is through Congressman Rouser's office.
Absolutely.
I think that's something.
And we come to that conclusion because we met with folks from Dr. Murphy's staff, Congressman Murphy's staff, and Senator Budd's staff. And the one who wants to help is Congressman Rouser. So that's just me as a layman, just sort of come to that conclusion. But,
That's not even continue to look at.
yeah.
So, and then the other big issue is getting the 50-year coastal storm damage mitigation project through for Surf City, and they're making significant progress for that. One of the other things that we, on a state level basis, of course, we're working on the oyster lease, and that's coming through committee on the House side, and it's getting ready to get into the Senate side. So if we do in fact want a moratorium on additional oyster leases, then we'll have to put a little pressure on the Senate side to make that clear.
And it's not the totality of Pender and Onslow counties. It's just portions.
That's correct. The map, and Chris Gibson from TI Coastal wrote the meets and bounds for the area. And it basically is from Howard's Channel, north behind the island, north to just past the bend and then of course the waterway at the North Topsail Beach Bridge.
The North Topsail Beach Bridge.
And part of the reason why it didn't include all of Onslow and Pender is because the person that's carrying the load for us, Carson Smith.
Yeah.
He's getting pressure from the commercial fishing industry on the other side. So to have a chance of getting the bill through, we didn't ask for the entirety of Pender and Onslow counties.
I had a question based on the information that came out at the commissioners meeting last night. We keep stating that New Hanover County has a 5-year moratorium.
Their moratorium expires in June and they're asking for another 5 years.
Right. So why are we only asking for a 2-year moratorium? I'm just curious.
It's a good, obvious question.
I don't know.
And I think you're,
Politics. I don't.
well,
Yeah,
I think you get to the point where you're asking what you think you might get.
Okay. I'm learning.
I mean, that's just my interpretation.
Okay.
That's right. It will probably meet with some resistance on the Senate side because it's an agricultural activity. And the agricultural community doesn't want moratoriums on any agricultural activities. So so the state level basis, David Farrell is reporting out from Maynard Nixon. There's also a bill out there to repeal a ban on hardened structures. That's sponsored by Hainig, Senator Hainig, yes. And, that opens a question. And at the same time, the Coastal Resources Commission is doing work on hardened structures themselves about where it's appropriate. There's some things on the state level, but Kathy Zigzasby from the Turtle Hospital gave a real good presentation as part of our meeting. And the presentation was, and I've asked her for a copy of it, it is how artificial lighting affects turtle nesting and hatchlings. I thought an interesting thing about it was that we all know that the hatchlings will turn to the light. Sometimes instead of going to the ocean, we'll come back the other way. But it also may impact the nesting activity too. So she had a really good presentation, and I'll get a copy of that out to you all if you want one, but it was really in depth. And they had surveys of where the lights were, and she did a really good job.
I got a comment. And it's really for you, Mr. Gunter, you and your wife. I'm just in my mind thinking this way. I raised a question at this meeting, or maybe there wasn't a question in there, but when I moved here, I would look out north and south on the beach side at night, and it was dark, even during June and July, which I thought was fabulous after a certain hour of the night. And I just assume that homeowners are responsible down here in a sea turtle sanctuary, and they are doing that out of respect. I still think that's the right answer, because people just, by and large, people who've been here for a long time don't light up the beach. But my question or concern came, the newest, largest houses that have been built in the last couple of years on the beach all have these illuminated raceways through the dunes to the beach, and they're lit up on timers at night. And I'm not picking on anybody, but most of these new large homes, the people don't live here. They're second homes. And those things are on timers and they're lit up all summer long. And I don't know if they're educated on the issue. If they were, I think they would help out. They would reset their timers. But it's an issue. And I think when it came up, folks said, including a police chief, said that we don't have an ordinance that allows us to enforce lighting on private property, even on the dunes. But, we live in a special place with trying to help turtles follow the moon back to the water, not to our homes, just wondering if we might dig into this deeper and find a solution that helps turtles and I know we've got information out there everywhere, but people just still don't see it, especially if they're down here for a couple of weeks a year and they live in New Jersey. I mean, it's hard, but just thought I'd give you guys something to think about and for Topsail Beach proper and that issue.
Yeah, well, it's a valid concern, absolutely, John. One thought I have is that we do have ordinances on where lights are allowed on the houses that can be seen out on the beach. And I'm not sure that is strictly enforced by when permits are given for houses, because I've got one right across from me. It's got light way up there at the top of the third level. Now it's, not in the first row, but still it's a violation of the ordinance. So we need to make sure that we've got our ordinances right. And put in an ordinance, like you described, the going through the pathway down to the beach. We don't have anything like that. And that's on us. And that probably starts, I guess, with planning committee. Would that be right, Christine?
Well, it's not in the planning and zoning ordinance, but the lighting ordinance is not in chapter 16, but.
So we need to figure that out, yeah, because we do need that specific ordinance that you're talking about. That those lights should not be allowed, absolutely not.
It's in chapter 6, the building section.
Well, I mean, we'll get a little pushback. We'll try to put that in, but nobody will have a leg to stand on. So.
Well, I think that what Kathy's done with this report is she's reporting out the surveys that they have done. And they do have a partnership with Jones Onslow, and Jones Onslow will quiet lights in the areas where turtles are about to hatch.
Yeah.
And seems to me that we're probably not too technically far away from the ability to know when the hatchlings are going to happen, and could then communicate that to people so that they could be a little bit more sensitive. But it might be a start. All right. I guess another report came out from Carrie Allen from the Coastal Federation, and they're working on the oyster lease situation. But one of the key pieces of legislation that they're backing is derelict and abandoned vessels. We don't particularly have a problem today, but if we had a big hurricane, we'd have a problem. And so they're proposing a bill that would strengthen that legislation, and we asked Carrie specifically what that does. And the new bill, if it's passed, would strengthen statewide regulations and strengthen the hand of law enforcement to remove the vessels, and would provide more funding to get them removed. I think they just removed the vessel out of Onslow County Sheriff's Department.
Did they?
So that was a good report from her. But any other observations, John? I don't want to be the dead horse here.
I would say one more thing for the record. And I'm gonna pick on Dennis this time. How would you know why we're paying lobbyists in Washington, D.C. in a small town like this? Or why would you know if they're effective and if our dollars spent on lobbyists are being well spent? What I saw for the first time, just an uneducated look and review of being with these folks in DC, was what a great job our lobbyists are doing for us. And the money is well spent. I mean, they care about our community. They care about our 26 miles of island. And they're really going to bat for us. And I don't see how we can get a foothold in DC without them. And so it was a great experience, and I was pleased on all issues, all fronts, and what we're doing with our lobbyists. So I just just for folks that aren't going to DC and don't know, I just thought that, everybody I can tell, usually when you pay a lobbyist, there's a negative connotation associated with it, but I thought it was, we're doing the right thing as a town.
We've got a really good situation in Raleigh too, here, you do, with those folks.
So just for identification, our town spends $63,700 a year for this representation. It went up by $3,400. But then you do commitment for 2 more years, so I feel like it's a good investment. All righty. Any other questions about that? We're at the end of the agenda. And any questions from Alex, John? Or
Well, let me just comment on what John just described about the lobbyist stuff, because, I've been on the board here for 6 years, and every year the group goes to Washington and they come back and they report, and it's always been very impressive that they've had time sitting, talking to our legislators and staff members at exactly what you came back and reported this time. You were a new face going up there. You got some legislative connections, and that was good that you went. I was real happy about that. William, I think, when was your first time going?
last year.
Last year, yeah. And you came back, and I think you sounded pretty favorably impressed. And you must have done this at some point, yes. So we do have good connections there, and we get good feedback from you guys when you go. And I think that's very important. And it certainly has influenced me in terms of thinking about the money that is spent on this, because I believe it is well spent.
I think we're getting a good return, not, money wise over the years. Certainly, the old squeaky wheel thing, the squeaky wheel gets the oil first, maybe, so.
Now you just gotta get Neil's problem fixed,
Has he only got one problem?
Well, yeah, high water.
Yes, Neil.
Yeah,
Sorry, Neil. I don't know why I called you this.
Installed that first clamp.
He has not installed it yet. I think that they were experiencing some problems with the sizing and,
The pipe.
the pipe was a little bit different size than they anticipated. Christina, do you have any update?
I don't, and actually, it's interesting because I emailed Tom this morning. He's on vacation, but I did email Tom this morning to ask him about, kind of where we were with that. So, really, because again, we have some of the money that's in this year's budget. We're getting close to the end, so we kind of want to make sure that was all on track.
I think, who is the person that assists Tom?
How,
Alex. And Alex, according to Tom, worked for a while at Riceville Beach,
he did.
and he's got some experience in alternatives to the duck bill.
He does, yes.
So we want to hear from Alex about what are those alternatives and are they appropriate for our initiative?
He does have some experience and different options, so, which has been helpful, at least to Tom as well, to kind of go into some pros and cons, different options.
Are there any other questions or comments, or if they're not, do we have a motion on the floor?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Like sound. Right, thank you very much. So we